In a land of gold and stone, of kings and kingdoms, rose the mighty empire of the Medes and Persians. And within its towering walls lived a man of prayer, wisdom, and unshakable faith. His name was Daniel. But this is not just a story about lions. This is a story about courage when faith is tested, about how one man's trust in God overcame the most ferocious threat imaginable. It is the story of how God shut the mouths of lions. After Babylon fell, the great King Darius took the throne. He was a powerful ruler, but not without insight. Among all the leaders in his new kingdom, one man stood out: Daniel. Daniel wasn't born in Babylon. He was taken from his homeland of Jerusalem years ago as a young captive. But even in a foreign land, far from the temple, far from his people, Daniel never forgot his God. He served with excellence, governed with integrity, and prayed with consistency. King Darius noticed. He saw Daniel's honesty, his wisdom, and the unusual favor that followed him. So, he made Daniel one of the top 3 governors over the entire empire. And then, he planned to promote him even further, placing him over the whole realm. But not everyone celebrated Daniel's rise. The other officials grew jealous. They whispered behind palace walls, their hearts filled with envy. They searched for something, anything, to use against him. But Daniel was faithful. No corruption, no dishonesty, no scandal. There was only one place they could strike: his faith. So, in secret, they conspired. A new law, they decided. One that would trap Daniel by the very thing that made him strong. They approached King Darius with flattering words, suggesting a law that honored him. A law that would forbid anyone from praying to any god or man for 30 days, except to the king himself. To a ruler, such praise was tempting. Without thinking deeply, King Darius signed the law. It was sealed, binding, and could not be revoked, not even by the king himself. But Daniel heard the law. He understood the consequences. And yet, he returned home, just as he always had. He opened his windows facing Jerusalem. And he prayed. He didn't hide. He didn't panic. He didn't negotiate. He knelt. 3 times a day, Daniel bowed before his God, giving thanks, seeking strength. He knew that faith was not a part-time decision. It was who he was. The conspirators caught him quickly. They burst into his home and found him praying, just as they'd planned. They rushed back to the king, reminding him of the law and accusing Daniel of breaking it. Only then did Darius realize the trap, and he was heartbroken. All day, the king tried to find a loophole. He searched for a way to rescue Daniel, but the law was unchangeable. The officials pressured him, and by nightfall, there was no choice. Daniel was brought to the edge of the lion's den. With sorrow in his eyes, King Darius watched as Daniel was lowered into the pit. He said only one thing before the stone was rolled into place. "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." And then, silence. That night, the palace was restless. Darius refused food. He turned away from music and celebration. He tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Meanwhile, in the lion's den, something miraculous happened. The God Daniel had prayed to, the God who made the heavens and the earth, sent an angel. And all night, that angel stood guard, silencing the mouths of the lions. Their growls turned to silence. Their hunger turned to stillness. Morning came. As soon as the sun rose, King Darius rushed to the den. With trembling hope, he called out. He didn't know what to expect, but what he heard stunned him. From deep within the pit came a calm, steady voice. Daniel was alive. God had shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel was lifted from the den. Not a scratch on him. No wounds, no bruises. Just peace. Because he had trusted in his God. The king was overjoyed, and justice came swiftly. Those who had plotted against Daniel were thrown into the same den. But this time, there was no angel to protect them. What happened to Daniel became known across the kingdom. And King Darius declared a new law, one that honored the God of Daniel. He wrote that all people across the land must fear and revere the living God, the one who saves, who rescues, who performs wonders. The story of Daniel and the lions isn't just about deliverance. It's about identity. Daniel didn't pray to impress. He didn't pray to rebel. He prayed because it was his lifeline. Because he knew that true strength comes not from titles or positions, but from the presence of God. He didn't stop when pressure came. He didn't compromise when fear rose. And he didn't question when the stone sealed him in. He trusted, and God responded. Daniel would go on to serve even longer, through more kings, more changes, more kingdoms. But his story in the lion's den remains a testimony for generations. When your faith is tested, when others turn against you, when the world demands that you bow, that you quit, that you stop praying, remember Daniel. Kneel anyway. Pray anyway. Stand anyway. Because the same God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel can do the same for you. Your enemies may roar. The night may be long. But morning will come, and your faith will be seen. Trust in the Lord, because no den is too deep, no lion too fierce, and no law too strong. For the God who saves. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to FaithFrame, where Bible stories come to life with faith, fire, and truth.